if you don't have a plan, it makes it so much more painful. We're all just kind of leasing in this digital world, right? It's no one's got permanent residency. If you don't have your stuff in order and you die and no one knows the passcode to your phone, how are they going to get into your stuff? Because without it, you need a court order to get into that data. You need to have a conversation and you need to have a way to keep them safe from some of this stuff.
What can I do to safeguard and protect my digital legacy to not have that mayhem for my family when I'm gone? Welcome to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. If you ever asked, how do I protect myself and those I love if something unexpected happened to me? You're in the right place. I'm your host, Niki Weiss, and together we'll explore how to protect yourself in a world where both your physical and digital legacy leave a lasting impact. And welcome back to another episode of Death and Dying the Digital Age, where we explore what it means to manage your digital legacy. Now, I'm here with David Cox. David, I met you when I was searching for how to manage digital legacies on our phones. And you popped up as a huge influencer on YouTube. So talk a little bit about what was it that got you into this space. I also want to say that, David, you are one of the few people that I've spoken to that actually has your legacy plan buttoned up in such a way.
I actually got it right. Woohoo! Celebrate. Little celebrations, right? Well, so thank you, Niki, for having me on your show. I've had a YouTube channel for 15 years, and, we have this thing called YouTube Analytics. So I know that about roughly 80% of my audience is over the age of 50. And so a lot of times, as we get older, we have to deal with death more and more. And it's one of these things where it's like if someone died, 40 years ago, it was totally different from how it is now, because now you've got this digital life. And if you don't have a plan, it makes it so much more painful. So what I like to do is I like to kind of help give people like a guide for how to deal with this stuff. Because the thing with technology is it's constantly evolving. I would argue it at a very annoying pace. It's very, very difficult to keep up with. It's hard for me to keep up with. And I'm a tech guy. And, I think about my clients who are in mostly their 60s and 70s, and it's just completely overwhelming. So my gift, I guess you could say, has always been to be able to talk tech to the non-tech savvy and just help make it make sense, and just give me a game plan for how to get where I need to be.
I have to say that when I am introducing or meeting people and talking to them about what I'm doing as a digital thanatologist, they really don't understand until I start talking about their phone. And then they have that, oh no moment. And it is just crystal clear of, hey, you died tomorrow and your phone died with you. Think about multi-factor authentication. And then it allows me to take that step and literally, because of your video, step by step, walk them through what it means to set up a legacy contact. Now, talk a little bit about Apple and what motivated them to create. A lot of people don't know about the legacy contacts on Apple. So what have they been doing to promote?
So one thing I will say, I do not work for Apple. I don't have a contract with Apple. And I think that makes me a great resource because I can call them on their shit. And there are plenty of areas where Apple and I severely disagree with how to handle an issue. Legacy contact is part of it. So basically, Apple came to this conversation probably about 5 years too late. But it was like, oh, finally, they've got something to help deal with this situation because, like you said, if you don't have your stuff in order and you die and no one knows the passcode to your phone, how are they going to get into your stuff, right? This stuff is all encrypted. So what they did was they created this kind of backdoor for getting into your stuff, and it's through a feature called a legacy contact. The process to access this feature is pretty much the same on every Apple device now, which I'll give them credit for that. I will give them credit for that. If you're following along at home and you want to get to this feature, here's the way you do it. So if you're on a Mac, you go to settings. If you're on your phone, you just go into the settings app, and then you tap on your name at the top. The second item down is sign in and security. scroll down to the bottom of that next menu, and it's right there, legacy contact. You can have up to 5. And what this basically does is it just means that for all of the most important information, especially your photos, messages, files that were on like the desktop, the documents folder, iCloud Drive, all of that stuff, it creates a path for it to be passed down to your loved ones. Because the thing is that we're all just kind of leasing in this digital world, right? It's no one's got permanent residency. So, Apple owns that data, including your photos, including your everything, right? So you have to take the action now, because without it, you need a court order to get into that data. But here's the thing, it's not perfect. And this is where I'm going to call them out. What Apple should have done, in my professional opinion, is they should have given an option for passwords to be included with this data. They did not. I don't understand why. So what it does is it puts all of that on the living and the person who's, about to die or just did die, to have already had some sort of an arrangement to pass on that data. So I've got some disagreements with them about how they handle that situation. And then it actually gets a little bit more complicated, Niki. So Niki, have you heard of this feature called passkeys?
Again, I'm not an Apple user. So for those that are.
Okay, so yeah, okay, that's fine. No is an acceptable answer. So passkeys is this feature where you can basically have a password saved. By the way, passkeys are available on Android.
So the passkeys.
Passkey technology is available on all devices. So basically, the concept of a passkey is the passkey lives on your device. So let's say you had a really hypersensitive app that you did not want other people to access. Okay, for some people that would maybe be something adult related. For others, it might be financial. Okay, really privacy concerned people. So that password lives on your device, and that's how it authenticates. If you die in a plane crash, or if a car crash, there's an explosion, and that device is destroyed, your loved ones, not only do they not have a way to get into your account, they don't even know the account exists unless they go into your email. But still, my point here is there's a lot of these flaws in our current technology for how to best pass down this data.
The recipe I would love our conversation to really build out is, hey, I get a 6-month diagnosis. I know I'm on my way out. What can I do to safeguard and protect my digital legacy to not have that mayhem for my family when I'm gone?
Right. So regardless of wherever you store your passwords, whether it's in apps like 1Password or LastPass, or you use Keychain, which is now kind of the passwords app on the Mac, wherever it is, there's pretty much always an option to do a file export all, and it exports it as a type of file known as a CSV file, comma separated values. It's the type of document that would be read by something like a spreadsheet piece of software like Numbers or Excel. So what my advice is to the young people or whoever is inheriting that data, it is critical that you understand what is the best way to manage that data. Because the problem is, if you don't, you can have a problem where their passwords and your passwords kind of become this intertwined mess. And so now you go to a website and there's like 50 different logins. All, it's maybe your couple plus, if you're inheriting mom and dad's, let's face it, they probably had a few duplicate passwords. So all of that is now just kind of, and you just can't, it's unmanageable. So here's the trick, okay? Whether you're a Windows user, whether you're a Mac user, if you get your parents' CSV file of your passwords, the trick is to create a new user on your computer that is dedicated to dealing with their affairs. Then you import that file so that when you're logged into that user account, it only submits mom or dad's passwords, not yours. And so that gives you the ability to much more easily log in to them and deal with their affairs, whether it's closeout accounts. You'll of course have to have a death certificate handy because there's going to be certain instances where that's going to need to be provided. So you'll want to have that. But again, it's just nice because it gives them their little space, to deal with their affairs, but it doesn't cross over into yours. Does that make sense?
I mean, it is a step-by-step process that for someone who is not tech savvy to understand how to be navigating those spreadsheets. Are there professionals out there that can, or platforms that can do a better job kind of shutting down those accounts? I know that there's one like Delete Me, for example.
Yeah, yeah. So sites like Delete Me are interesting. So I did a little bit of research on them prior to this conversation because I know you had kind of privately we talked a little bit about this. You'd asked me like, David, what do you think about this stuff? And so I want to share with everyone what my process was to come up with this answer. So I went to Delete Me's website and I went up and I pulled up. They have two different sort of privacy policy type things at the bottom of their website. And what I did was I copied all of that information and I fed it into ChatGPT. And I said, I want you to analyze this information and tell me if you find anything suspicious. So here's what it came up with. Honestly, I have some serious concerns about services like Delete Me, especially given how they position themselves as champions of privacy. At a first glance, they seem like a great option. They help you opt out of data brokers and claim to reduce your exposure online. But when you look more closely at their operations, it raises questions about whether they truly live up to their mission or if they're just yet another service profiting from privacy fears that they're supposedly there to solve. For starters, while Delete Me works to remove your data from data brokers, their own website integrates heavily with platforms like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Taboola, which are all companies that are notorious for collecting and monetizing users' data.
Wow.
They use tools like Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, and even LinkedIn ads to track users' behavior, optimize marketing, and serve targeted ads. For a company that's supposed to be prioritizing your privacy, relying on these tracking heavy tools just kind of feels a little bit hypocritical. I mean, how can a service that's dedicated to protecting your data simultaneously be working with platforms that are major players in the data collection industry? And then it gets actually even better. So there's these, when you sign up for those services, you are giving them a limited power of attorney. And that's what they require you to grant them. And this gives Delete Me the ability to act on your behalf to remove your data. And that can include creating accounts, signing documents, and more. And while that is technically necessary for their service to function, it's a significant level of trust to place in a company, especially one that integrates with so many third-party services themselves. If there's a breach or a misuse of this authority, the fallout could be horrible. And then speaking of third-party services, they use tools like Amazon S3 for storage, HubSpot for marketing, Zendesk for their customer service. And while these are kind of standard business tools, they do introduce all of these extra potential vulnerabilities. This is the problem I have with a lot of these security services, is that they're peddling these fears, but in the process, they're also guilty of a lot of what they're claiming to prevent. And one of the interesting details that I did come across is that there's nothing that says that they submit this information to have your info removed. They could delete it and then just re-add it. You'd never know about it. I mean, there's nothing that's stopping all of these companies. There's not a lot of regulation these days in terms of this stuff.
I mean, we are the wild, wild west, right? I mean, we're not the European Union that has the GDPR that is very strict. I mean, some states, California, Colorado, maybe Virginia, but even still, we're fragmented from a US standpoint on how we're dealing with data privacy. And yet, basically everything you shared, it's like, well, then as a user, what are my options? If, again, we're down to, because everything you just said is like, my mind is just like,
it's a lot. It's a lot. It's
made me more confused, more, again, for that average user.
Right.
And yet I'm dealing with a terminal diagnosis at the moment. Not me personally, but I'm saying, like, if that scenario is like, I don't have time to think about what these organizations and companies, who owns my data, who doesn't. I get it. It's a commodity. I just want to I don't want my family to have to deal with zombie accounts. Right. Or be at risk for identity theft and for my accounts to be broken into.
It is so critical that in addition to creating a legacy contact and in addition to giving your loved ones access to that CSV file that I was talking about earlier, it is also critical that whoever is your executor needs to have the passcode to get into your devices. It's a critical layer to just get access to that information. And Niki, I hate to say this, but one of the lines that I just find myself saying all the time, especially with my clients, is that security is an emotion. And it's true. There's not a heck of a lot that any of us can really do in this day and age. Everything's digital. It's out there. Yeah, you can send a request to remove my data. Are they going to actually do it? Maybe you'll just get more. For people out there who get like bombed with email, I mean, I'm one of them at this point. I've got a super simple little trick. And if they go to my little YouTube channel, basically what you do is you create a thing so that your email searches for the word unsubscribe. Just to be clear, we're not clicking buttons, but usually if you just target that word in the emails, you can usually identify most of the junk.
Interesting. I mean, and now more and more companies are like, the way they're placing the words unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Or
it's like it's a white font on a white background. Of course, there are ways they can get around this. They can just change it so that instead of saying unsubscribe, it says manage subscription preferences, right, which is a different word. So this is the thing. It's like you've got to, usually when I'm having chats with my clients about privacy and security and this stuff, I kind of describe it as like a seesaw. On one side, you've got convenience, and on the other side, you've got security. And for most people, it's about trying to find that good balance between the two, because you can drive yourself absolutely nutty with this stuff if you go crazy on the security side, but on the other side, if you go, the name of your dog, the number one, your risk of certain things really, really goes through the roof. So when we're talking about the websites that people need to really focus on in terms of, because you get into this password list and it can be just absolutely overwhelming. So
because it's every password of every, sign up here, because that's what they were always looking for. They're still looking for, right? Is they want to be able to just, and that is, my email address has become a commodity. Yeah. And so then what I did was I started creating more email addresses. And so now I have to manage a dozen
all
email
of that
addresses.
Stuff, right?
I mean, like you said, it is trying. I love the seesaw analogy because it really does feel, how do I make that balance between securing myself, giving access though, right? I mean, my Amazon account, we want to save a few dollars, so I'm going to include some of my family members. But by including some of my family members, it opens me up to,
more
other
risk.
options.
Yeah, exactly.
More risk, right? So then the question is, again, moving forward, and am I right to say that the way we're managing passwords today is going to look very different in the next 3 to 5 years, 6 months?
Well,
I mean, with AI,
it's really hard to know, because pass keys is this, like, it's the new thing. It's what everyone's talking about. But I feel like you people have not thought this all the way through. Like, yes, it is possible. Thankfully, a lot of people who are using pass keys currently also have a password for that. So one of the tricks I like to give to the Apple users out there is, if you use the password app and you hit Command 2, that shows you all of the pass keys that are stored in the Mac. So what you can do is just verify that for every pass key, there is also a password that's there. Because remember, if that device is destroyed, or if your loved ones can't get into that device, there's no way to manage the account. So again, that seesaw, it's if you go too crazy on the security side, it can create an issue for your loved ones. So
they won't be able to get in.
It's maddening. Just at least know this. At least if you're watching at home and you're thinking to yourself, this is maddening, let me just tell you, you're right. It is. It's insane. It's an insane world that we live in. And it's really hard when you consider that we've got young people who've been using this stuff since they were born. And we've got older people who this is very, very foreign to them. And a lot of times, you know, the young people are better at managing some of this stuff than the older people. And so it's just, there's no great system, but the key is to be proactive about it. And like I said, exporting that password, that CSV file that we were talking about is critical. And obviously make sure that the information that's in it is correct. And also I should probably mention, it's probably not the best idea to keep a file called passwords on your computer. That would be a very bad idea. So.
Well, again, I guess the good news here is that the craziness, the insanity I'm feeling is
validated.
Real.
It's validated. Yeah.
I mean, if anything, that's what this conversation has done is like, okay, you know, it's kind of like climate change. Like we're in a digital climate change right now. I mean, that's what it feels like.
Let me give you another one, Niki. Okay. Yeah. So we talked about with Apple and this legacy contact stuff. Okay. One of the things that I mentioned in there is text messages, right? So text message data is included in legacy contact data. So let's say my death is suspicious. Okay. There could be very good evidence in text messages that points to who it is, right? But let's say my loved one who I leave my data to doesn't have a Mac. There is no way for them to get that data.
Even if
you can go to iCloud.com and you can get access to so much, but not messages.
Okay, so I'm an Android.
You need to literally go out and buy a Mac.
All right,
see what I mean? It's like, have we really thought this through, Apple? Really?
I'm an Android user. I'm a Windows user. My husband has an iPhone. He also uses a Mac. So are you saying that if he passes, that I would have a challenge getting into access, even knowing I'm in his legacy contacts?
This is why it's critical that you also have their device passcode.
But if he died in a car crash.
But if he died in a car crash on the device, you'd have to literally buy another device just to be able to get access to that data. It's insane. Or you need to borrow someone else's Mac, create a new user that is dedicated to that purpose. That would be the other option. But I mean, it's complicated stuff.
So for your own purpose, and remember we had the conversation, you're pretty solid in the plan that you and your spouse have, right? So you and your husband, you guys do you have everything written, like a physical and digital system to make sure that, okay.
Yeah, we have a physical firebox. And so we have it on the calendar so that every 6 months. Now here's another interesting thing. This is actually, I didn't mean to hit this, but I'm glad we went there. So, so in the Apple ecosystem, there is this back channel called family shared passwords where you can share certain passwords. But the funny thing is that Apple doesn't give you the ability to export that data. So if you think, oh, it's okay, I've got mom and dad's passwords through that back channel. Yeah, but you still can't really separate it out and print it and make it accessible for a new user. So it's a very sticky situation that they've kind of created themselves. But this is the thing, like there's so many different ecosystems that we live in. You've got the Android ecosystem. There's the Windows ecosystem, there's the Apple ecosystem, and getting all of this, getting kind of the rules set for this constantly evolving world is really, really complicated. And I just feel like a lot of the people who were in charge of this stuff didn't really think things through. And as a result, it's up to you and I to, oh, yeah, sure, the average person can handle this. It's complex stuff. I'm here to tell you. But this is why I'm good at my job. So
yeah, well, listen, and that with such respect. And I try to tell people that, I talk to estate attorneys, and with these estate attorneys, they're very focused on, the will, the trust. And then I'll speak to the wealth managers. And again, they're about the beneficiaries to make sure the accounts are set up. And when I start talking about passwords, they're just glazed over. And I just look at them like, so I'm going to assume that this is like an emerging, not just an issue, but an opportunity as well for us to be on top of the conversation. One thing that within the My Final Playbook system that we talk about, and I wanted to get your opinion, is I've come up with, in just like we have a medical advance directive, I've worked with my brother who is an estate attorney. He and I worked on a digital legacy advance directive. Now, is that something you can see value in for your clients?
A digital what?
So instead of, are you familiar? You're familiar with a medical advance directive? Yes. Basically says medical advance directive. I'm giving someone power of attorney.
Power of attorney. Yes. Okay.
Power
Yes.
of attorney to say that if I'm in a vegetative state, that they, as my medical proxy, has the power to make that final decision whether I flip the switch or not. Okay. So on a digital legacy advance directive, that is basically saying I have the right to shut down, because this person is now incapacitated. I have the right to shut down all of their social media accounts, their subscription accounts, reoccurring subscriptions, and so forth. Your thoughts on that?
It's a really great thing you brought up. There's certain amounts that you can do with like the parental controls feature. So like, let's say you're dealing with a parent who, develops Alzheimer's, okay, or dementia or something like that.
Memory care.
So that is where the parental controls feature can be useful. And I think really does ultimately give the closest to what you were just kind of describing. So it can give that extra level of access for those types of special situations. But is it easy for the average person to set up? No. It involves a little bit of digging. You have to kind of go through the back channel. You have to have an administrator to help set up that account. And it's a process, especially if the account was kind of already set up as a co-administrator. You might have stumbled onto something, Niki.
Well, listen, I just think in this digital age that we're in, it's complicated, whether you're alive or not.
Yeah.
I know, one of my clients, they had a teenager who unalived himself. And it wasn't until afterwards, because they did not know about digital legacy contacts, that they realized, as you mentioned, that the underage child, parents paid for the phone, and they did not have legal rights to get into that phone.
And that's why you then need a court order to be able to access that data. And even with that, there's not a guarantee. So it's complex stuff, but it's important for everyone to have a plan. And, the most important password is that device passcode. That really is critical. A lot of other passwords can be reset, but that's a really important one. Another one I would just say is critical is obviously the email password, because a lot of times if you let's say the parent who passed away, had a lot of, bad passwords that were stored. In the process of getting into that account, you're going to be ultimately sent a lot of recovery emails. And so it's just really nice to have that set up so that it's easily accessible. For anyone who's kind of going through this, you may need to, I can understand that on your phone, you can only handle so many emails. And it can be there might be times where you might need access to mom and dad's email account. And that's where having in the settings the ability to enable or disable the account is really useful. So it hides it when you don't need it. But it's like, oh, stupid password reset. I need to get into that account. You just go into settings and you re-enable it. And boom, it comes back to life. It goes and it checks and it pulls down the most recent emails.
Well, I would think just those two pieces right there, right? The recovery and then also the digital legacy contacts. The fact that I have spoken to so many people that had no idea that functionality even exists is why wouldn't that be part of the setup of a new phone?
It should be. It really should be. Who do you deem, when you're brand new you're absolutely right, Niki. When you get a new iPhone, that should be one of the things that it says, even if it's just like, hey, let's just verify that your old legacy contact is not like now your ex who's trying to kill you. Like, how about that? That's a handy, is that a notification that you would allow? Yes. Right. Right. Like, I don't mind spending a couple extra seconds, verifying that, especially like getting a new device, something we all kind of regularly do. It's a good time to check that stuff and make sure that it's still who you want to have access.
So talk about healthy updates. I mean, like the sanitizing your list, right? You said twice a year. And so talk to me a little bit about what is a good, healthy process of going through my digital life. And because I think that this is a new step in our day-to-day activity, is that it's interesting how in the last 5 to 10 years that we've kind of just, I'll just keep signing up for all this stuff. And now subscriptions are the new, hey, just subscribe. But now it's gotten to the point where I don't know what I have.
Yeah.
Right. And if something were to happen to me, that this would be a problem, especially for myself at an online business. Yeah. So best practices for our listeners.
So of course it's not easy, right? So the challenge is that you can subscribe now to many things through multiple means. For example, if you're an Apple user, you could subscribe to something through the App Store. So it's like a monthly charge that's hitting your Apple ID. Now, thankfully, no matter where it's coming from, it's all going to go to the credit cards. So the credit cards are going to be the true, revelation about where are those subscriptions actually coming from. But one of the nice things is that on the all the different Apple devices, there is now a button. I believe it's in the same area we were kind of discussing earlier.
Settings, privacy.
It's sorry, you go to settings and it's right there, subscriptions, and it shows you all the different subscriptions that are under that particular Apple ID. So that's an easy one. Any of those, boom, you can remove them. As far as everything else, Netflix, all that stuff, you really just have to go to the credit cards for that stuff. There are services out there that will scan your account, try to figure out who you're subscribed to.
Your thoughts on that one? Because I've got a couple written down.
I feel like my opinion of that is different for someone who's dead compared to someone who's alive. I'm not so worried about the data leakage of someone who's dead compared to someone who's alive. So I'd be okay with using one of those services that try to figure out, who you're subscribed to. But honestly, I think the credit cards are probably just the easier way to go, and then just see where that pairs. I just say, hey, who, remind me and it's up to you, quarter, 4 months, 6 months, whatever you want to do, to send my loved one my updated CSV file of my passwords.
To automate that whole situation.
It's just a great way to just do that. Those kinds of reminders are really, really handy, I find.
And just to close out the conversation, the future AI, how do you think that this is gonna?
AI just supercharges everything, good and bad. And so I've been seeing, just the number of scams that I see people being exposed to is going way, way up. A lot of the text message scams now are really, really bad. Niki, have you seen this one with the, you get a text message from someone like new number, never, and it's something completely monotonous. It's like, let's get coffee.
Right.
Have you gotten these?
And those are the ones I know not to answer to.
The tricky thing with this is that, we get all of these messages, and sometimes it's really hard to know what's real anymore. That's like one of the big challenges. So I came up with this super simple way to make it obvious. So on Apple products and on Android products, there is a feature called text replacement. And it's basically this feature where you type in a couple of keys, custom keys, and it replaces that text with something else, right? So what I did was I created a custom text replacement that says, I'm sorry, this number is not recognized, is not saved into my phone. I have recently been the victim of a phishing scam, and for security reasons, I need you to verify your identity. Thank you. And the thing is when you throw the word victim into a sentence, it instantly changes the tone. So if they tell you anything other than a legit name, and even if they say a legit name, it's still worth a phone call to make sure it's them.
Right.
Now you could argue, oh, well, David, with voice cloning tools, couldn't they? Yes, anything's possible. So security, it's an emotion, but at least it helps weed out a lot of the crap out there. But it is a really complicated world that we live in, and security issues are just getting worse and worse. And AI is just making it a lot more intense. And
I want to find a positive note to end.
I totally want to end on a positive note too. I just think, to all of you out there who have aging parents, especially, like, you need to have a conversation and you need to have a way to keep them safe from some of this stuff. Like, it's for those of us who are younger, it's our job now to protect our parents, because these scammers are everywhere. Like, it is scary to me how much of it I'm seeing. And I'm just one person. Like, I don't, do tech support calls all day, but a lot of these people are getting taken for a ride. And I think it's really up to us to step up, and maybe it is time to use those parental controls feature and start to explore, what access mom and dad really should have. And, but it's hard to know, because the thing is if your parent, if you say you cut off access from unknown numbers, well, what if their doctor changes their number or they call from a different extension?
That's true.
There is so many issues that are out there. And what everyone really needs is digital literacy to know how to handle this stuff. And I'm the first person to empathize and say, it's a lot. It's hard.
But you're not alone.
But you're not alone.
Positive note, you are not alone.
You're not alone.
For our listeners to know that, look, there are David, Niki, we're here. We're here to try and figure it out together. There are resources, and every day there are new resources coming out. So, to be able to stay on top of it, or to start leaning on people who can guide you through this journey. And certainly as a digital legacy thanatologist, I'm happy to do that. And David, you want to talk a little bit more where people can find your content material?
Yeah. So for 15 years, I've had a YouTube channel called Tech Talk America. So you can just look for me there. Unfortunately, now autocorrect now changes it to Tick Talk America. It's not, it's Tech, T-E-C-H. Or if they want to work with me one-on-one, I do still do a certain amount of private one-on-one work. I'm down to 1 day a week, but you can sign up for a session with me at techtalkamerica.com. And I'm happy to work with you. And I work with couples all the time, or families, because I understand a lot of people have a lot of questions. And obviously, as you can see, it's complicated stuff.
You're not alone.
So happy to help you navigate it.
Death and Dying in the Digital Age, how to navigate through this new fourth industrial revolution. David, thank you so much. And we'll end here.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. I hope this conversation inspired you to take control and plan for the inevitable to protect yourself and those you leave behind. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at digitallegacypodcast.com. Remember, life is full of surprises. What happens after you die shouldn't be. So keep your passwords safe and your playbook up to date.